Hi everybody, welcome to 5 Minute Ministries. There is a tactic that advertisers use to get people to buy more of their product. And it usually comes in the form of a term called new and improved. Or they just change the packaging. And it happens periodically every 5-10 years or so. And if you look up the history of packaging for products, you will see the vast difference in what used to be and what is today. Even sports teams and the like do those things. They change logos and whatever to try to update or appeal to a new audience. Well, why do I bring this up? The reason being is because I equate this to how sin works. Now, I'm not saying those things are sinful, but what I am saying is that sin has never changed since the beginning of the world. Since sin came into the world, the sin has never changed. It's always the same sin. But all the time, how the sin is committed or how the sin is presented constantly changes. And a lot of it is the idea that people don't want to admit that they're sinners, so they will come up with ways to change it so it doesn't look like sin. They think it's a way to get out of being held accountable. And it certainly is not. Sin is sin. God has said what is sin, and He stands by it. And there's not going to be any excuse. There's not going to be any reasoning or justification when you stand before Him and He says, give an account. And you can't say, I didn't know it was a sin, because you do know it's a sin. But you try to explain it away, rationalize it, as I've already said. Now, people do this in so many different ways. And I just want to say sin is sin no matter what you do. You can't justify it enough. You can't compare it to other people enough. Many people do that. Well, I'm not as bad as, or it could have been worse, or I could have did this instead of that. There's also the blame game. If this person hadn't done this, then I would not have done that. Or if I was treated a certain way, or if my parents raised me a certain way, or if I had money, or if I grew up in a different environment, I wouldn't be doing these sinful things. And not even legalizing the sin will make it right. There's also many people who think just because it's said on television or done on television that it's okay to do and say. People will find all kinds of ways to excuse themselves, and it will never hold up. If the Bible calls it a sin, it means God called it a sin, and it is a sin. There's no way around it. If you're going to continually do that, justify it, then you will continually sin. You will continually do the things that go against God and His Word. And that is really not something you want to do. So when Christians come along and they say that's a sin, they're speaking from an authoritative source. They're not speaking from their opinion. I know some do, but they're not speaking from opinion. They're not speaking from their own thought processes or from their own background or social status or whatever. They're speaking from God's Word. So when they say this is sin, they mean it, or at least they should. Now, that doesn't, if you don't agree with it, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Many people say, well, I don't think it is, so it's not. I don't think this is a sin, so it isn't a sin. Well, just thinking it's not a sin doesn't mean it isn't one. God has the standard, and if He called it a sin, it is most definitely a sin. This has been 5 Minute Ministries, and I'll see you next time.